All right, guys, here is my reselling niche tier list. I'm making a tier list of all the different categories you can resell online and that you can find at garage sales. So, the three different criteria that I have is how competitive is it? How many people are looking for that item? How easy is it? How easy is it to find at a garage sale? And then, what are the barriers to entry? So, based off those three criteria, I'm going to be ranking these 13 different categories, and then you guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think. So, first up, we have DVDs and media. This is something that does not have a really high sell price. Most DVDs you find cannot sell for over like $5. And if you do find a lot of DVDs, you're most likely gonna have to lock them up if you want to sell them. That's the case for most DVDs, but you still can find DVDs that are sealed or just special edition that are worth money. But in most cases, DVDs have a really low average price. They're not really competitive, but they are very common as well. You know, you will find DVDs at a lot of sales, but again, most of the time they're not ever worth picking up unless you could maybe buy like 1,000 of them. But it's still too much work for most of the time. I wouldn't even touch DVDs no matter how cheap they are, unless I know there's a special edition one or a sealed one that I know is worth $50, $60 or just even above $20. So not very competitive, very low barrier to entry. Most of these DVDs have barcodes right at the bottom that you could search up. So I would say that DVDs are D tier. You don't really want to get into DVDs. Uh, I've bought them before, and I was just starting out. I bought around like 300 DVDs for $50, and I think I sold all of them for like 60, and it took so long to do. General advice: stick away from bulk DVDs unless you really like the work or something. I don't know, but stick away from DVDs. Next up, we have coins. Coins are something that are really high end, have a really high average sale price, and also are really high demand in the market. So if you list a high value, high dollar item coin on eBay, you'll get a lot of attraction, a lot of buyers looking to buy your item. So it's really good. At sales, coins are very competitive. So it's definitely gonna hurt the ranking. Coins are something you're not really gonna find too often. I would say I find coins at like 5% of sales, maybe. So it's not too often that I find coins, and especially good coins. Most of the coins you do find, I would say 50% of the time, they're not even American coins. People are collecting foreign coins. So most of the time, foreign coins are like almost worthless. So very rare to find, I would say, coins. But if you do find American coins, they can have really high value. And a lot of the time, people who have coins don't know they resell for. So there's really big profits to be made. So if you know what you're doing, there's a really big market for it, and there's big money to be made. But I would say um, it's also a pretty high barrier to entry. You got to know what you're doing. It's not something you can just search up easily, and you got to know conditions. So pretty high barrier to entry. I would put coins at, I would say, either low B or high C, because it's not something you're going to find very often and not something you can really just totally specialize in. I would put it in the B category. There's a lot of money to be made there. Next up, what I do, this is video games. Video games are probably the most competitive niche out there within reselling. If you go to a garage sale and there's video games, everyone's gonna be glamming off the video games. Everyone wants video games. They're super hot right now. Video games that used to go for like $10, $20 exploded in price over the last like 5, 10 years. So video games are really hot and really hard to buy at a cheap price because now everyone looks up video games a lot of times. But the good thing about video games is they are very common. If you go to a garage sale, I would say 30 to 40% of the time you could find video games, even if they don't have them listed. Like if they do have them listed, obviously you're going to find video games, and a lot of times they do have video games listed at garage sales. So it's really competitive. I know if I see video games that I want at garage sale, I have to get there around 3 hours early, which is unlike any other category. Video games bring a crowd like nothing else. So be aware if you want to get into the video game reselling niche and focus on that. It's gonna be super competitive, but it's still there's a lot of money to be made, and there's just video games all over the place. Personally, I got into video games because I played so many video games as a kid. And yeah, so video games super competitive. You can find them very often, so that's very good. And the barrier to entry is really low because there's a lot of barcodes on the back of video games, but there still are some video games that you have to worry about the condition, you have to worry about the print release, you have to worry about there not being a barcode, and you have to search the game. And there's different like dates to release, so different prices. I'd say video games overall, although they're really competitive, which is really annoying sometimes, I would say it's pretty high A tier, especially if you're younger generation and you're like me, you played video games most of your childhood. definitely a great reselling category to get into because first off, you know a lot of the video game systems. You know you've played all these systems when you were a kid, so it's a lot easier to get into than something like coins where you have no idea what you're looking at. And yeah, let's jump into cameras. Cameras are something that are pretty common to find. You could find both really vintage cameras, you could find new cameras, but I would say most of the cameras that you will find are going to be like rinky dink, Power Shots, Sony cameras that are just around $30 to $40. Surprisingly, these old cameras have a lot of value, and I really like looking into cameras. If I'm at a garage sale and I see a camera, I feel like I'll be the first person to always look to grab it. And even if it doesn't look like it'd have a lot of value, a lot of times these cameras that don't look like they have value really do. So cameras very unsuspecting. So there's not gonna be a lot of competition with higher end cameras and more antique and like super rare cameras. There's gonna be a lot of competition, but nothing too crazy. There's not that many people who just focus on cameras, but cameras are something that are easy to find, pretty low in price point if you find them. But people also do know the value of cameras. People know that if you see like a new age camera, they're gonna look it up. It's really easy to look up a camera, so be aware of that. You know, you're really not gonna get cameras for cheap unless, like I said, they look like the rinky dink ones that you wouldn't get $5 for that actually sell for 50. So cameras, I like cameras a lot. I do video games, cameras, a lot of electronics, and I don't have much competition, so I really like cameras. I would um, say I find them around 30% of sales that I go to, just laying around. Um, I would say they're they're pretty low A tier. They're really good to find, and a lot of times they can have really high values. But again, not too often you're gonna find 30%. I would say unless they have the cameras listed at the sale. Um, yeah, let's see. How long is this? I don't want to make this too long for you guys. Next up, we have jewelry. Jewelry is something I don't deal with at all because the barrier to entry is pretty high unless you've been wearing jewelry your whole life. Um, yeah, again, if you've been wearing jewelry your whole life, you know a lot more than the average person. You know what brands sell. You know what brands have really high retail value. So jewelry is pretty high barrier to entry, really competitive. You know, if you go to a garage sale that says there's jewelry there, it's just kind of like video games as well. There's gonna be swarms of people who get there really early. The big thing with jewelry is there's big money to be made in costume jewelry because a lot of the time costume jewelry is actually silver and it has a really high value because it's made of silver and not just costume. So people are selling costume jewelry, you know, by like $1 a piece, $2 a piece, and they're made out of silver, so they're worth like $100 to $200 because of the silver value in them. So there's really big profit margins to be made within jewelry. But again, if you don't know what you're doing and you haven't grown up wearing jewelry or buying jewelry, it's really hard to get into. Something that's been a big barrier to entry to me because I just don't know what I'm looking at. I've never worn jewelry or anything like that, and I don't know even where to look for the brands. So pretty high barrier to entry, but if you know what you're doing, there's a lot of money to be made in jewelry. Um, I would loop it in with coins. It's pretty similar, but I would say a little bit worse because it's a little bit more competitive, and it's also something you're going to find at a lot of garage sales. Next up, we have antique furniture. Antique furniture is not really competitive, and it's really hard to learn. There's like thousands of different companies who are producing antique furniture, and if you don't know what you're looking at, it's super hard to know what it is. You know, obviously, you know if you're looking at a chair, it's a chair, but you don't know who manufactured it, what kind of condition it is, when it was made, and how much it sells for. More importantly, so it's really hard to look up on eBay, and then it's also hard to look up on eBay because there's not a lot of sold comps most of the time. If it's a really big item, first off, people are more likely to ship that or sell that locally. So sold comps on eBay are probably gonna be really low with something like that. So antique furniture, not really competitive. And if you know what you're looking at, there's so much money to be made in antique furniture, but really high barrier to entry is something I would not recommend for a newbie because it's really hard to get into. You know, you need to know what you're looking at, and you need to have an eye for something like that, but there is so much money to be made. I know people who do that and they make a ton of money. But again, also something like that, the big barrier to entry is you can't store a lot of this stuff, even transport it. So if you're buying like an antique dining room table, like how are you gonna get that out of the house? There's big logistical problems when it comes to stuff like that, and like where are you gonna put it? What happens if it doesn't sell? It's not just like an old video game. You know, if it doesn't sell, it's just a video game. You know, if you don't sell a dining room table, you have to get rid of the dining room table. It's a lot more annoying. But just a lot of money to be made, but again, very rare. A lot of antique furniture you find is going to be worthless. I know that. I know there's like some different characteristics that make antique furniture worthwhile, but there's just so many different like things that you need to know. It's really hard. So I would say stick away from antique furniture if you're a beginner. I would rank that. Yeah, I'd rank that in D tier. You need to know what you're doing. Golf clubs. So golf clubs are something that I do buy. Something you're gonna find pretty often at garage sales. A lot of people are just looking to get rid of old golf clubs they don't use, they stop playing, or they got a new set. So golf clubs are something that people are often looking to get rid of, and I would say 20 to 30% of the sales have golf clubs. So they're pretty common to find. Things with golf clubs are that usually people don't know how to look up the prices of golf clubs, so they'll just sell the whole bag for $100, or they'll sell each club for $10 each. So most of the time, if there are good clubs, you can get them for pretty cheap. Um, Not really too competitive. Not many people are just going to garage sales looking for golf clubs and specializing solely on golf clubs. And even then, most people who go to garage sales and see golf clubs don't spend the time to look them up. So it's pretty low competition, pretty high margins to be made. And I would say that's definitely something if you, especially if you play golf for a lot of your life and you know different golf clubs, you know different brands, you know what to look for. It's definitely something you can get into pretty easily. It's pretty easy to search up a golf club. You can search for the manufacturer who makes it on the part of the club, and then search it up. It's pretty easy to find, pretty easy to gauge condition if it's used or not. So yeah, golf clubs are pretty good if you know what you're doing. Even if you don't, it's a really good, really easy to start off with something like that. But again, you're not going to be making thousands of dollars off golf clubs. You can't really make a full time income off golf clubs. So I would say, yeah, I'd say B tier. I'd say B tier. Hopefully, maybe we'll switch that around, but we'll see. Okay, so moving on to electronics. So electronics in general, audio systems, laptops, any kind of electronic thing you could think of. I kind of made like a broad, broad category of just all electronics. There's just so many different things you could find at garage sales. So I just try to lump it up into all of electronics. Electronics is what I do mostly. So I'll buy almost anything that's electronic related. Microphones, cameras. I guess cameras its own category, but like PCs, computers, old phones, headphones, speakers, audio systems. There's so many different things in electronics. So I do have a little personal bias that I really do like electronics. It's really easy to look up, and there's a lot of money to be made. And then also people who are going to garage sales, I would say the average age for someone who's going to a garage sale is probably around 40 to 50. There's a lot of older people who do garage sales. So if you're younger, you do have a different knowledge base than these people. And electronics is something that's going to favor you as a younger generation. I grew up using a lot of these stuff, like a lot of electronics, phones, headphones. And I know a lot of the different companies that produce higher end stuff like that. If I see Bose, if I see Beats, I'm going to know better than like 50-year-old dads or 50-year-old parents who are out there who have never used Beats or Bose or don't know audio systems like that or just electronics in general. So you definitely have the upper hand if you're a younger generation, and there's so much money to be made. You're going to find electronics at every single sale. I think electronics are probably the best thing to get into if you're starting off, and something I really recommend. It's what I personalize or specialize in. But the thing is, I'm also putting a lot of different things in the electronics category. I didn't want to sparse everything out into like each unique category, like laptops, headphones. So I just lumped it all together. But I would say if you know anything about electronics, start there. It's a really good general topic to start off in, and you could like focus on different things. Like if you really know and are headphone fanatic, you could start there and really focus on knowing what headphones sell. But I would say best thing to start off with is electronics. Electronics are just pretty low competition. Like I said, most people who go to garage sales are like 50 years old, so you have the upper hand when it comes to knowledge, and you find them at every sale. And also pretty low barrier to entry because we've been growing up with this stuff. So if you're a younger generation like me and you're starting off, go to electronics. I would say this is S tier, especially if you're watching a tier maker video. You're most likely younger. You're gonna be looking into electronics. That's all I could say. Okay, clothes. Clothes might be a pretty controversial topic because I know a lot of people like to resell vintage clothes, go to the Goodwill bins and stuff like that. But clothes for someone like me, sorry, I don't really resell clothes that much at all. Reselling clothes, like I would say, you can find them at every single sale. Basically, I would say 95% of sales, 90% of sales, you're gonna find clothes, but 99% of the time, they're never worth it unless like they're really high end brands or vintage clothing. I mean, you might find vintage clothing at some sales, but a lot of the time this clothing is just not worth it for how much is there. Even if they're charging $5, it's just like it will never sell. That's the problem I found with clothing, is that a lot of times, even if you do buy it at a really cheap price, you just can't get rid of it. It's a really slow seller for me, unless of course you have like special clothing or vintage clothing. Vintage clothing sells really fast and it's pretty hard to find and really competitive. If there's vintage clothing listed at a sale, again, it's like video games. There are going to be a swarm of people going there really early, so it's pretty competitive if you want to go for vintage clothing. But clothing in general almost holds no value unless you're going for like the designer brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all these higher end brands. Those still hold a lot of value, but like your Nike sweatpants, most of your name brand stuff won't sell. I won't even take clothes if they're free most of the time, unless again they're name brands or vintage. And the vintage holds a lot of competition. So you need to know what you're looking at too. You need to have the eye for vintage. So reselling vintage clothing, it's not really that easy because you need to have an eye for what sells, and it's not like you can look a lot of this stuff up. A lot of it's really unique and almost one of a kind pieces that have not sold yet on eBay. So you kind of have to have an eye for what sells. Um, I would put clothing. Clothing is also something people look to get rid of. Like it's not like people do look to get rid of clothing a lot, and they're not looking to get that much. It's tough. I would either say high C or low B. I'm gonna go with I think I'm gonna go with the high C. Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have model trains. Model trains are awesome. I love selling model trains. I don't know what it is, but model trains are just cool to me. I don't use them or anything, but I think they're cool to find, and they like surprisingly hold a lot of dedicated buyers. Like I'll sell a high end train, and I'll get like hundreds of messages from people who are like, "Oh, blah blah blah," like asking hundreds of questions, messages, and then like when I do sell it to someone, they're always super happy when it's in good shape and like they got a nice deal. So it's really nice to sell trains. There's a really big community of people who do model trains and stuff like that. Trains are awesome. You're not going to find them too often in sales. They're pretty hard to find. I would say 10% of sales have model trains, but the thing is, when you do have trains, you're usually finding a lot more than one. You're usually finding like, hundreds of dollars of the trains that you could buy. I think it's a lot of like almost everyone knows who's running a sale and who having a garage sale knows that trains are worth money. So most of the time you're gonna end up paying up for model trains because people know that model trains has a big collector base and stuff like that. So model trains are. I'm sorry. Let me think. What do you think I want to say model trains? Because I do really like them. And I want to show you guys just how good of a category it could be. You're not going to find them too often, but when you do, they hold a lot of value. And a lot of the trains that you do find actually are worth money. So it's not like clothes or something like, sorry, I'm speaking so fast. It's not like clothes or anything like that, where like 99% of the clothes that you find aren't worth money. A lot of the trains that you do find are worth money, especially like train tracks. You wouldn't expect it, but train tracks can sell for like hundreds of dollars. I had like a buyout of $1,600 of trains, and like I had like $2,000 of the value in just train tracks. So it was really crazy. Trains are something you really want to look into. If you see them, you're not going to see them too often, but there's not that high of a competitor base. Like, if there's trains listed, there's going to be some like super heavy buyers of trains, but most of the time, I would say trains are pretty low competition. Because you're not going to find it that often. You're not really going to be able to make a full time income off trains. That's tough. I would say it's right next to golf clubs and clothing. I would say I put it in C just because it's not that common that you're gonna find trains, but um, when you do, you can make money. So be on the lookout for trains. That's all I can say. If you find them at a sale, most likely they're gonna be worth picking up. So high C, low B, I would say. Um, Next we have books. Books is what I started off reselling 3 years ago. I was looking at like TikTok and stuff like that. And like, oh, I wanted to make extra money, so you could find books really cheap. So I used to go and post ads online that I could take your books off you for free. Like if you're looking to get rid of your books and you're just looking to throw them out, I would come and pick them up for free. And I learned that was like the worst business model. I would drive like 30 minutes for a stack of like 30 books that would not sell. So just like clothing, 99% of books aren't worth more than $10 and aren't worth your time to sell. So a lot of times books are just not worth your time, especially because they're just so big and bulky. There's really high competition for books. You'd be surprised, but if there's a sale that has books listed and like you're on estate sales.net and there's a picture of like a huge bookshelf, you can almost like guarantee that there's gonna be a like a book reseller there who's been doing this for like years and just sweats it out. So books are something that are pretty competitive, surprisingly, but you can get books for super cheap. Usually people aren't going to be looking up every single book. If there's like a library of like 100 books, there's usually just going to be like a base price of like $1 to $5 for each book. And then based off that, you can pick and choose based off the price of if it's worth it or not. Books are something that you could find very common, very common. Books are going to be like 80% of sales, I would say. So very common, pretty high competition, pretty low barrier to entry. You just scan the barcode with your phone on the eBay app and see how much it sells for. Books also like clothing. 99% of them aren't worth money. And even when you do have some that are worth money, sometimes they take a really long time to sell. So I would say books are mm, when you do find the right kind of books, they can be worth a lot of money. You know what? I'm gonna put B. I think it's common enough where you can make a lot of money, but 99% of the time books aren't worth money. Still, they're so common. Once in a while you're gonna score. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. We got antiques. Antiques in general. There's just so many different antiques that you could find. Antique fireman's helmets, antique cameras, antique farming tools, antique. I don't know. There's so many different like antique chandeliers. There's so many different things within antiques. So it's kind of like electronics. They kind of just lumped in a bunch of different selling categories within antiques. Antiques are super, super competitive. If there's good antiques listed and there's pictures of them, there's gonna be a lot of people going for them. But the thing is, um, maybe there's not as many people as video games, but the people that know antiques really well. Like people who know antiques have a lot of time under their belt and like are 60 years old and have been doing this for like 30 years. So if you're just starting off, you're definitely not going to know more than like the professional antique reseller first off. But definitely something that has a lot of value, and you're going to find a lot of antiques at garage sales. So I would say pretty high barrier to entry. A lot of times you're not going to know what you're looking at, and there's going to be no similar sold comps on eBay. So I would say this is high to low A. Let me put it ahead of cameras. And then lastly, we have records. Records are something that are not too common, but they're pretty high in competitiveness. When there's records listed at a sale, there'll be definitely a lot of record people there who are just looking to resell records. They do sell for a decent amount of money still, and it's one of the most like original reselling niches. When people started off going to garage sales, records were like one of the first things that people collected. I don't personally do too much of records. I'm just starting to get into it, and it's pretty easy to look up. The title is right on the name of the record. I would say records are more common than like coins and jewelry. I'd say it's around high B. High B sounds fair. So yeah, this is my garage sale reselling tier list. If you guys like this kind of content and garage sale information, follow for more. If you guys disagree or agree with what I'm saying, let me know in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching.